Right, okay, so we've made some more progress with the Range Rover. This video is all about what you need to do if you are wanting to put a new tailgate on the car. Watch the whole thing, watch it a couple of times, there's quite a lot to it. So if you want blow-by-blow instructions, then you'll get them from here. But first of all, let's take a look at why you might want to be doing this. Okay, so here we have the proof that I've now completed this task, so the video does work. But this is why you may want to be attempting this, and this is the upper tailgate. I'm not doing the lower tailgate because that's not a job that I need to do. But as I've seen, a lot of Range Rovers have, what I've seen is a lot of bubbling in this area, but you can see how bad this one is. Completely rotten right along here, right on the other side of it. A repair of this would just not really be feasible. So obviously, you know, I found a good second-hand one. There's no rot on it whatsoever. I'm really happy with it. You can see, even in this video, you can see how someone has, in the past, carefully painted around the Range Rover badge as well. So we've now got a nice new tailgate, nice freshly painted tailgate. So it's going to look like a great job when I get all the badging done. One other thing to note on the old Range Rover tailgate, which I've only just found out since the sort of new one has come back from the paint shop, unfortunately. But this seal that goes along here, you can just take that out. Apparently, I didn't realise this, but the later ones, like the 2011s, 2012s, L322s, just didn't bother putting this in, and it just looked like cleaner line. You know, you've got the glass, then it's straight onto the panel. Apparently, it's not necessary, and if I'd have known that beforehand, I'd have taken this off my my donor one, and just had it sprayed right up to the glass. But as it is, I haven't done that. But you could learn from that mistake of mine. Now, first of all, before we get right into it, I'll just explain. I think there's probably about 3 different ways to do this job, but it's quite a big job because there's a lot of cabling that comes from the car and goes into the tailgate to various different bits. So I've just spun this round just to try and illustrate a couple of things before we get started with my version. Now, there are one of these here. Grommets that come out of here, and they go into the car, one on each side. If you have a look, you can see when it comes to, you'll need to take these off at some point. So you can see there's sort of one that it's got a sort of a recess in it there that will hook in. I think it goes on like that. So when you're taking these off, take them off from that side, the side that doesn't have that sort of extra grippy bit in, otherwise it'll be harder to rip it out from there and you might damage it. So that's tip 1. But just going back to the different ways, so you've got the wires that will coming out through there. What you could do, which I've heard other people have done, is snip all the wires off inside the car, and then put your new tailgate on, get your donor tailgate with all the wiring in it, hopefully, with where it's been cut off, you know, sort of back into the car, and then solder all the bits of wire under the head lining, and that may be a quicker way to do it. I don't like the idea of that. I don't like the idea of adding extra solder and extra connections and probably adding in some more problems. You've also got cables there which are sort of radio cables and things like that. I'm not really sure how to go on about that. And you would also end up with, you know, if your wiring loom is that thick, once you start adding connectors and stuff like that, and you know, it's just going to grow and grow, and it's got to go under a head lining. So I have decided to go for just feed all the wires back. Obviously, feed the wires out of your donor tailgate, and then feed the wires back into it once it's on the car. It's quite a long and involved job. That's what I'm going to be doing. I think and I've probably mentioned this in the videos that I've done along as I've been doing the job, which is why you need to watch the whole thing from start to finish. The wires, I think, have been put into the tailgate when the window is not bonded in. So they will bond the window in after they have laid the wires in the channels that come around here. So what you could do is smash your glass, rip it out, or get a knife around the bond and lift the glass out and rebond it in. I have no idea how to go on about doing that, and it sounds like that could probably be expensive. So I found a way to get the wires out of my donor one, get them back in the new one without messing around with the window, without snipping the wires off in the car. So without further ado, have a good look through the rest of this video, which will take you blow by blow. You might want to watch it a couple of times, psych yourself up for the job. I'm not sure exactly how long it will take, because I've had to keep stopping. I've had quite a lot to work out with this. But, you know, I imagine, you know, a day's work, once you know what you're doing with all the different bits, you know, it could be sort of like a day's worth. Before we start, though, I will just mention another thing. When you are, because I've been working on my, this isn't the donor one, this is the old one now, but we're working on the donor one in this position, and then obviously I've been working in tandem on the one that's on the vehicle, which has been in the open position, and I'm looking up underneath it. And a couple of times I've sort of got confused with which side I'm actually working on. So just be mindful of that. So the bulk of the wires, when you've got it in this position, the bulk of the wire is going down there. When it's on the car and you're looking up at it, which is what you are going to be doing, believe me, it's going to be the other way around. So that section is over here, if that makes sense. Right, okay, so before we get on with the main videos, I've reviewed quite a bit of the footage already because I've done the job now, obviously. I've got a list here of some things which I need to point out. So take your own pictures of your own current wiring and how it sits on the tailgate, and obviously put it back in that way, because the donor one I got had a GPS thing on the top of it, whereas mine didn't, and there was something missing from the other side. And there were a couple of other things that were just slightly different. So make sure you take your pictures of your own wiring before you put it back, putting everything back together. Set the windscreen wiper when that motor goes back on. So yeah, actually, if you're wanting to change your windscreen wiper, you could watch this video as well. There's probably a quicker one out there. But yeah, set before you put the trim, the exterior trim back on with the center brake light on it. Make sure that you've got your windscreen wiper was already set to the rest position. Make sure the rest position is you know, at the right place. Stick your ignition on, try it out before sticking your trim back on. A couple more things. Make sure when you're setting it up, when you're putting the new tailgate on, you're putting the bolts in, don't attach the gas struts that support it until you've got your gaps right. Because I did this, and the gas struts, obviously they start pushing it out and pushing it to one side. So don't reattach them until you know you've got the boot lined up on each side nicely. So yeah, I hope you find the video useful. The reason I made it was because I couldn't find anything else, and I'm figuring that now these cars have got to this age, there's going to be lots of people with rotten tailgates that are going to need to be changing them. And it's not too much of a, you know, it's quite involved, takes quite a bit of time. But as long as you're patient and you plan it properly, and you've got the right amount of time, and you know what you know, you watch this video for some heads up on stuff. You might find some better ways of doing stuff, and if you do, let me know. It'd be interesting, and some other people could benefit from that as well. But yeah, within most people's capabilities. Although there's the odd bit looking back on it now in the video that you know, someone with a gynecology degree may find certain bits easier than I did. But yeah, hope you enjoy the video, and all the best. Right, some running commentary. We're going to swap the tailgates now. So this is basically how to take the bits of trim off, get to the bolts. So a few snippets of this. So if we switch this bit of trim, and you basically just pull it from these edges here, pull it directly down where as the tailgate's open. You can see the locating pegs here. Some of them have snapped off, but those things are just sticking upright. As you can see, that one's gone. So you just need to pull them directly, and then they shouldn't snap off. But these obviously have been taken off at some other point by someone not too carefully, and they've snapped. But there's enough to keep these bits all in place. So you start off with that piece that's covering that motor. Then we start on the sides, and again the side ones are coming that way, so you need to be pulling it sort of level with the glass, pulling it that way to get those free. That's those bits. Then you've got this bit here. You need to take out your lights, unplug those. There's 2 screws there to get rid of, and I'm about to attempt to pull this out from what I can see where it's mounted on the clean tailgate that I've got in the garage. So I've not done that yet. Hopefully that's not going to be too difficult. The other bit, which I haven't seen, was taking off the exterior piece. The exterior piece up here. Now I think it's held in. Looking at the tailgate that I've got, there are 2 sort of locating tabs mounted on the underside of this that you can't see, and I think it slots in basically like that. So I'm just going to pull this out now. What I've done, first of all, you have to undo 3 bolts that go one bolt there, 1 bolt there, and another bolt there. So there's your 3 bolts. Undo those, it becomes loose at the back, and this should now lift off. This will be the moment of truth. I should probably not attempt this with one. In fact, I'll move the whole tailgate down. This should just lift. It was moving before. No, there we go. Bit of movement. There we go. I'll just pause this a second. Yeah, so I've just basically pulled it forward, then pulled up gently. It didn't take much, but you can see how it locates in there on that white locating piece of trim. Then you've just got the light itself, so I'm assuming I'm just going to be able to pull that off. Right then, so a wiring update. I'm about to strip out the old wiring from the old tailgate, which is still currently on the car. I'm going to take it, I'm going to take the rubber out here, leave the rubbers in, and then have the old wiring loom dangling on each bit. Obviously I've got to feed all this back, so I've taken some pictures of where everything was to make sure I can put it all back in the right place. Now I think the main issue is the this fat piece that comes down on this side. There's actually 2 channels here, difficult to see, but behind the behind this metal, you've got where the locating clips go in. Let me just put some light on the issue. Where you've got these locating pegs here for the trim bits, that's a hollow which has nothing inside of it. There's sort of another hollow, you can sort of stick a screwdriver down between the window and the top here. That's another channel, and that's where this loom is fed through. Now it's pretty tight, And when you think about all these plugs and things that are on here, I suspect that this is put in place in the factory when the window isn't in, and then the window's bonded over the top. That's what I reckon. Now, I think what I've done is I've had a look inside down here with my mini camera thing, camera scope, whatever you call it, and this was only, I think, fixed in place in just at the start here, down there, and it was this clip. So that clip was just inside, just out, slightly out of view. Then what I did was I knocked the end off it. I'll show you where that was. Knocked the end off it, because we need as clear a run as possible to pull this through. So yeah, it was that was on the metal underneath there, and just knocked it off, was able to take that away. Now, feeding this back through, what I also thought was I need to keep this as thin as possible, and this one I'm going to be strapping this and taping it onto the loom to try to make it flush. I've actually made it smaller, this plug. If you can see, I've shaved off the locating clips with the Stanley knife, so I've made it much smoother. If you look at the one on the other side, which I won't need to do this because this is at the thinner end of the loom, I've taped it up already, so I've already taped that up. But yeah, there's two basically quite big lugs on the end of that. So that's going to be the fattest point at the end of the loom, which really is going to be similar to what that is. So they should, I'm just going to leave them on that one. This one, I've taken them off, and then I'm going to tape that to the loom to streamline it. And then we'll see if we can feed it back through that way. And then the challenge is also going to be at the other end, feeding it back through the other way. Watch this space. So once you've unplugged the main loom off the tailgate, all the bottom bits, the number plate lights, all those things, you've unplugged them, you're going to need to feed that back through the framework. That's where it gets awkward, because there's a couple of clips that you cannot get to. The main loom goes down this side. You've got your hinges up here at the top. It's coming down this side, which, if it's on the car, it's on the right hand side if the car's facing forward. So down here, other side up, it's on this left side. So you're going to be feeding the cable up through this channel. There is a channel between the glass and here. So there is all the way up here. This isn't entirely hollow. It's a channel. Now, you'd be tempted to think, oh, I can pull it from underneath here and pull the wires out of that gap. You can't. They're pegged in with these. So that is situated behind here, and it locates into the frame there. There's one there, and there's one further up. Now, I've found out exactly where these are, and what I've done is, you can see here, this is obviously come off the other side. I have knocked off the from the other side. I've knocked it off so that clip will fall out, and you can get the clips free. So best way to do this is by counting up. You got one there. You can count up on the rungs of this heated windscreen, and that's where you want to be boring the hole, which is roughly round about probably central between that point. You don't want to get it wrong, because if you go too far down here, you're actually going to be screwing into the cavity that the wires are in, and that means you're going to knacker your wiring loom. So just be very careful. I'll show you in here with a torch in a minute so you can see. So as I say, you've got the other one up here. So again, counting down using the heated windscreen. That's where you want to be, and you'll be bang on there. You'll see in a minute. Now you've also got another one round at the top. Now I've just bored 3 holes here. The one that's up here is different. This is attached to the wiring loom. You can see that there's some fabric that wraps around the wiring loom and then wraps this onto the wiring loom, and then it's got a locating tab that will push into the frame. So you need to free that as well before you start feeding the wiring loom round and out. What I did, the wiring loom comes out of here. Well, actually, it doesn't come out of here. The wiring loom goes into the rubber grommet up there. But once I'd got it freed, I brung it round into this bit because it's easier to work with. I sort of brought it out into the boot, drew it out that way, and then it just made it easier to then get it out of the rubber grommet. And so, hoping that this makes sense. Now, if we look at what you've got to knock off with this torch. So if I shine my torch in there, it lights up that in there. Right, and now you can you can make out the top of that clip. So you can see below that is the cavity where the wiring loom goes. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to knock the top of that off with a screwdriver. Then the clip will fall and I'll somehow manage to retrieve that. The wiring loom isn't in this one. I managed to rip it out because this was from one of the ones which I got from a scrapper. So the wiring loom was still in, but it was obviously cut off anyway, so it was easier to get it out. But I'll tell you what, it still wasn't easy when you don't have to worry about knackering the wiring loom. So again, same with this one here. We should be able to see in there. You can see the clip. So we're going to push that out with a screwdriver into the cavity and then retrieve it. And this is so that when I'm putting the wiring loom back in, there's nothing in place. You know, this is all covered by trim. It doesn't need securing. I don't think it's going to cause knocking or anything like that. But we can at least feed it down the channel and there'll be nothing fouling it on its path. So it will hopefully be easier. This one, again, so you can see that's the top lug of that one. So that's going to need knocking off. So that's going to be the hardest one to do, really, I think, when the wiring loom is in there, because you've got the rest of the clip that is attached to the loom, but at least it's close to the exit point, because having to you've got that rigidity that clip provides the rest of the loom, which causes problems when you're trying to go around corners. These bits, so these are what the clips look like. Once you've got those free, they're still going to be wrapped around the loom. I just fed the wiring loom, pushed it sort of backwards and forwards, and I was able to sort of find out where they were, get a screwdriver under this bit and drag them to a point. I actually dragged them to a point up here for one of them, and then was able to sort of extract it off the loom. And I think I did the other one. I might have dragged it down this way. So then you've got the free cavity and you can move it around, and it's not a simple job, it's an awful job. But at least with this video you can see, bore some holes in there, and that gives you access to exactly where those tabs are, and you can make the job good. It really helped having this thing. It's a camera on a probe with a light, so that's how I was able to sort of find them exactly. The one that I'm taking off the car, I did end up having to drill a few holes all the way up it to find out exactly where they were. So this way you can see the exact points that you would need to drill into. So I hope that's a help of how that we go about wiring, about extracting and reattaching the wiring loom. So on the return leg, the tailgate is now situated back on the roof. Just removed it by taking away the 2 bolts either side. Well, took away the gas struts first, just unhook them on that side, let them loose down, then let the tailgate rest, have 2 people, 1 each side, in the closed position, take off the bolts that are securing it, and then the best way, because I still had this dangling out of this hole with the grommet loose, there's not much in the other one, so it was easy to get that one out and get the stuff fed through and left hanging. But this one is very difficult to do it from where it was, so we did it when the bolts were out, and basically just had one person holding one side of the tailgate and sort of lifting it. Sorry, so this wasn't in the closed position, this was in the position like it is now, just holding it steady. And you have to keep it steady, because if you knock these hinges on the side, you're going to chip your paintwork on the roof. So holding it steady and just giving enough height to enable you to feed that out and then through that hole there and drag it through, so that you can leave it hanging loose completely. I think I did this one first, the shorter one first, and I didn't need to tape all that up. That all went through, and then I did the longer one after, I think. And as I say, with the long one, before you do all this, well, before you take it out of that channel there, just remember, before you attempt to take it out of that channel there, obviously you need to do all your drillings and stuff first. You must make sure that you've taped up all the loose sort of connectors and things, and streamlined it as best you can, and always leave a tab on your on the electrical table that you're using for that, to make it easier to unravel, because it's a real pain to get this stuff off sometimes. So that was it. So that was taking it off. Fairly straightforward. You just need to be very careful. And when you put it back on, what I've done on here, this extremely long piece of I've added, this is just a piece that I've had left over from something kicking about. It can be anything, I suppose, that's, a piece of brake cable or something like that. Tape it on a fair way up your wiring loom, so it's nice and secure in place. So that is just going to act as a pull, and what I'm going to do is hold the camera at the same time. What I'm going to do is the longer piece, I'm going to start feeding it through with this. I'll just push this straight out when I can. Why is it not going out? Oh yeah, there. So I'll just pull that out now, and obviously pull the very end of it through there. Now when the plug in the loom, might as well do it now. Obviously, yes, just watch your wires on that. You see that just took a little bit of the sheathing off. So that's now not going to go through, but what I'm hoping is that I'm going to be able to pull and guide it around this lip and out there. Wish me luck. Right, so just through the feeding it through process now, what I've done, I've laid this right in this channel, and I've had to be pushing this. You have to put it that way and then feed it round in increments. Get a section into this bit, you'll see it bulge out here, get a screwdriver down there, sort of push it that way. You'll see it coming up here and it might come out. You sort of like got to try and keep it in, keep pushing it back whilst keeping some pressure on this end to keep the momentum going this way for the loom. And you know, slowly but surely it's working. I've just found this here that I've not, obviously we're going in the other direction here. Before that would have been all right, getting dragged through this channel, but that's gonna cause an issue. So I'm just gonna put a bit of tape on that, and hopefully that one will get around the corner too. I'm just gonna pause this. All right, so we now managed to get the first plug bit out of, feed it through and out of there. So I can, at least if I need to do, I can be confident of pulling this a bit harder, knowing it's actually properly attached to the loom, whereas this obviously is just taped. So hopefully we're going to be all right now. But we have now started getting to the fatter bit of the cable, which is going to get harder to push around, but hopefully we'll be all right. Don't know if I've mentioned this before, but these plugs on these fatter sections, just make sure they're taped in the sort of most compact way against the loom to make the loom as small as possible. And you might need to, you see that one is sort of longer than sort of wider there, so I'm going to try and, if I can, force that into the channel so that the upper way is sort of like going around there, because I think there's more room like that, if that makes sense. And alright, it's relatively slow progress now. I'm really having to, I've actually found a better way in. I can sort of push this bulk of loom around the corner with my finger there, get it sort of bunched up there, nudging it around very slowly here. The loom is now all the way into this channel, so the last of the clips, the hard clips that are going to be, I think they're going to be round about there. So once I've got that around that corner, it's going to be easy to tug it on the other side. But this bit is a bit on the slow side, but I'm hopeful. Right, it's gone a bit quicker now. Not sure if that was a bit of a red herring. That method there might actually have caused the loom to catch on something a bit more. What I've been doing is just sort of like continuing to try and push it out of the hole that's beneath here, push it round, and I've seen that make a little bit more progress. And can't see really because the sunlight, but that is the last, it's just on the bend is the last bit of the last plug. So as soon as it's in that channel, I've got very high hopes that the rest of this little loop is going to disappear. Right, this is through now. I'm pretty happy about that. Finally, the loom is back through, so I'm just going to start untaping all the bits, and it'll just be a case of, I'll switch this round. Just be a case now of getting rid of all the bits of tape off there, freeing up all the plugs, putting the wiper motor back in there, hooking all these back into place, putting all the lock and everything back into place, then the trim, and then the top bit, reversal of removal.